There are structures so forgotten that most people believe they're beyond saving. This old stone tower is one of them. After standing abandoned for more than half a century, the building was on the verge of collapse. But instead of tearing it down, two brothers chose to bring it back to life, transforming it into a luxurious living space for their family. What makes this restoration truly remarkable is that they preserved almost all of the original stone structure, reinforcing only the areas that genuinely needed additional support. The first task wasn't construction at all. It was preparing a safe and stable work site. A thick layer of sand was spread across the entire interior, filling low spots and creating a level surface where workers and equipment could operate safely. On any construction project, establishing a stable base is always the first step before adding new structural elements. Right beside the tower stood a large tree stump that had remained there for years. Left untouched, its root system would continue growing and eventually place pressure on the foundation. An excavator quickly removed the entire stump, eliminating the risk of future movement that could shift the foundation stones over time. Once the cleanup was complete, more sand was carefully leveled both inside and around the tower. Beyond simply creating an even surface, this layer helps distribute loads more uniformly before the concrete is poured, reducing the risk of uneven settlement in the years ahead. Formwork was then installed around the entrance. It may seem like a simple detail, but these temporary molds determine the exact shape and finished elevation of the concrete slab. Well-built formwork creates clean, sharp edges and greatly reduces the amount of finishing work once it's removed. The centuries-old stone walls were thoroughly cleaned with a pressure washer to remove moss, dirt, and deteriorated mortar. At the same time, a moisture barrier and reinforcing steel mesh were installed across the entire floor area. The plastic membrane prevents ground moisture from rising into the slab, while the steel reinforcement provides tensile strength, helping the concrete resist cracking throughout its service life. Before the concrete pour began, the crew performed one final inspection of the moisture barrier and reinforcing steel. This is a step that can never be overlooked because even a small installation mistake can affect the strength and durability of the entire foundation. Concrete flowed steadily from the mixer truck and was spread evenly across the prepared surface. While the material remained workable, the crew moved quickly and worked in perfect coordination to ensure every section reached the precise design elevation before the concrete began to set. The work didn't stop inside the tower. The area in front of the entrance was poured at the same time. Completing both sections together helps minimize differential settlement while creating one continuous, stable surface for the next stages of construction. Finally, the concrete around the doorway was carefully screeded smooth. Within the formwork, the precision achieved at this stage will directly affect how easily the doors can be installed and how seamlessly the interior finishes come together later in the project. As soon as the concrete had gained enough initial strength, the entire surface was pressure washed to remove cement dust and construction residue. This thorough cleaning prepared the slab for the next phase of finishing work. With the foundation now secure, the crew turned their attention to the tower's historic stone walls. Every gap between the stones was carefully filled with fresh mortar. This wasn't simply about improving the appearance. It was a vital process that restored the bond between the stones, allowing the weathered walls to regain the structural stability they had gradually lost over decades of exposure. The highest and hardest to reach sections were repaired using a boom lift. Working from above, the crew cleaned every crack before filling it with fresh mortar. Repairing the tower from the top down helps prevent rainwater from penetrating deeper into the structure and causing further damage. While one team focused on reinforcing the stone tower, another began fabricating the massive timber beams. Each piece was rough cut according to the construction drawings, preparing the materials for the roof framing that would be assembled in the next stages of the project. Long timber beams passed one after another through the table saw, producing components with perfectly uniform dimensions. That level of consistency would make assembly faster, while ensuring roof loads could be distributed evenly across the entire structure. Back at the tower, every remaining joint between the stones was carefully packed with fresh cement mortar. This painstaking process continued for days because every single void had to be completely sealed to restore the structural integrity of the historic masonry. The most severely weathered sections near the top of the tower required special attention. The fresh mortar not only secured the stones firmly in place, but also created a barrier that would prevent water from penetrating the interior of the wall. Even after night had fallen, the restoration continued. Under the glow of work lights, the crew carefully sealed every remaining gap, determined not to leave a single joint unfinished. Working from the boom lift, the craftsmen patiently reinforced the tower one section at a time. There were no shortcuts here because, with stone construction, long-term durability depends entirely on the quality of every individual mortar joint. Attention then shifted to the area behind the tower. Soil, tree roots, and loose rocks were completely removed to prepare the site for a new patio and a retaining wall that would stabilize the surrounding ground. An excavator began reshaping the landscape around the tower. Beyond improving the appearance of the site, the new grading created the proper slope to direct rainwater away from the foundation, instead of allowing it to collect around the base of the walls. Large stones were carefully positioned along the rear embankment, forming the first course of the retaining wall. Their tremendous weight will help resist the pressure of the surrounding soil once the entire area has been backfilled. Fresh cement mortar was then packed into every gap between the stones, transforming individual rocks into one solid, interconnected structure capable of withstanding long-term earth pressure. Finally, the crew drove stakes, stretched guidelines, and precisely established the finished elevation of the retaining wall. It's a simple but highly effective method that ensures the entire wall remains perfectly straight before the final concrete work begins. After days of carefully preparing every small detail, the most important stage of the entire project finally began. Inside the workshop, massive timber roof trusses were lifted into place and assembled around a central hub. Unlike a conventional roof, this one was designed with an octagonal shape to match the circular stone tower below. That meant every angle, every cut, and every joint had to be executed with near-perfect precision. Before being transported to the job site, the entire roof frame was fully assembled inside the workshop. It's a step many people never notice, but with large timber structures, a trial assembly allows the crew to identify even the smallest inaccuracies, while every component is still safely on the ground. Discovering a problem after the structure has been lifted dozens of feet into the air would require far more time and introduce significant safety risks. Once every piece fit together perfectly, the joints were secured with heavy-duty structural screws. Every fastener helped transform dozens of individual timbers into a single unified framework capable of supporting the weight of the roof, snow loads, and powerful winds for decades to come. Even then, the crew refused to rush. Standing directly on top of the completed frame, they carefully inspected every connection one final time. With a roof geometry as complex as this, even a misalignment of just a few millimeters could throw the entire structure out of balance during installation. Meanwhile, at the top of the stone tower, sheets of plywood were installed across the opening to create a temporary working platform. Although it wasn't part of the finished structure, this platform played a critical role by providing the crew with a safe and stable surface to work from, instead of standing directly on the aging stone walls. Even after nightfall, the work continued beneath the bright glow of construction lights. Heavy timber posts were lifted into place and carefully aligned with the layout marks prepared earlier. These posts would transfer the entire weight of the roof down into the stone walls below, making accuracy at this stage absolutely critical to the stability of the entire structure. Then came the most important moment of the project. Working together in perfect coordination, the crew carefully lifted the massive roof trusses onto the top of the tower. There were no rushed movements or unnecessary adjustments. Every timber was guided slowly and deliberately to prevent twisting forces that could distort the newly assembled framework. With the combined effort of the crew and a telehandler, the primary roof beams were gradually connected high above the tower. This was the moment when the engineering drawings truly began to take physical form. Every completed connection brought the roof frame one step closer to becoming a fully self-supporting structure. As soon as the octagonal roof frame stood firmly in place, traditional hardwood pegs were driven into the timber joints. This centuries-old method of joinery has been trusted by master craftsmen for generations. As the wood naturally expands and contracts with changes in humidity, the pegs tighten even further, creating an incredibly durable connection that doesn't rely entirely on metal fasteners. The massive beams were then carefully aligned, drilled, and locked firmly into place with heavy mallets. Every strike ensured that roof loads would be distributed evenly throughout the framework, instead of concentrating stress on only a few structural points. Even after darkness had settled over the site, the crew continued installing the first metal roofing panels. Completing the roof as quickly as possible helped protect the newly erected timber frame from rain and overnight moisture before the building could be fully enclosed. Beneath the roof structure, additional timber blocking was installed and secured with structural screws. Although these pieces may appear small, they play a vital role in distributing loads evenly and keeping the roof trusses stable under the weight of snow or high winds. As the roof neared completion, work shifted to building an entirely new entrance. a long timber post was lifted into position with a telehandler, while its elevation and alignment were checked repeatedly before it was set upright. This post would become the starting point for the entire front extension of the building. Vertical posts and horizontal beams were then connected to form a new load-bearing frame. Unlike the centuries-old stone tower, this section relied on modern timber framing to create a larger, more open living space, while remaining perfectly in harmony with the original architecture. Once the structural frame was complete, sheets of plywood were installed across the top to form the roof deck. This continuous layer not only stiffens the entire structure, but also provides a solid base for the waterproofing system that will be installed in the next phase of construction. A waterproof membrane was carefully installed across the entire sloped roof of the new entrance. In modern construction, this protective layer is just as important as the finished roofing material itself. It serves as a secondary barrier, preventing water from penetrating the structure if the outer roof ever develops leaks in the future. Elsewhere on the job site, long timber boards were precisely cut to their individual dimensions. Because the entire structure follows a circular layout, almost no two pieces are exactly alike. Every component had to be custom fitted to match the unique geometry of the tower. Standing on a boom lift, the crew began installing wooden ceiling panels inside the tower. Each board was fitted tightly against the next, creating a beautiful natural finish, while also adding rigidity to the entire roof structure. With the ceiling complete, work officially began on the upper floor. One by one, the wooden floorboards were installed around the curved stone walls, transforming what had once been an abandoned interior into a warm and inviting living space. Every floorboard was measured, trimmed, and test-fitted several times before being permanently secured. In a circular building like this, there is no room for accumulated errors. A single board cut incorrectly could throw off the alignment of every piece that followed. Special attention was given to the large opening at the center of the floor. Using a router, the craftsman carefully shaped a perfectly smooth curve. This opening would eventually connect the two levels while allowing natural light and fresh air to flow throughout the tower. The final cuts were carefully refined so the floor wrapped perfectly around the central opening. The result was a clean, seamless appearance that preserved both the beauty and the structural integrity of the floor system. Next came the staircase. Solid wooden treads were securely fastened to a steel framework, creating a structure strong enough to withstand years of daily use without unwanted movement or vibration. The sides of the staircase were then sanded, adjusted, and carefully fitted to each individual step. Although this stage required considerable time and patience, it would ultimately define the quality and craftsmanship of the finished interior. With the upper floor complete, the crew turned their attention to the intermediate level. New structural beams were carefully positioned according to the elevation of the existing stone walls, ensuring that loads would be transferred evenly down into the foundation. Long timbered beams were lifted into the tower with a telehandler and placed precisely where the plans required. These beams would become the primary structural framework supporting the upper floor. Sheets of plywood were then installed across the newly completed beam system, creating a safe working platform for the finishing work that would continue above. At the new entrance, Another large beam was lifted into place between the timber posts to further strengthen the entire front extension. The side support members were carefully measured, aligned, and secured with precision. Beyond reinforcing the structure, they also created a flat, stable surface for the finished materials that would be installed later. The final floor panels were installed across the new entrance, closing every remaining gap and creating a smooth, continuous surface ready for the next stage of construction. Another long beam was securely anchored to the historic stone wall using heavy-duty steel brackets. This solution allowed the modern timber framing to integrate seamlessly with the centuries-old masonry while maintaining long-term structural strength. Standing high above the ground on a boom lift, the crew tightened the final structural bolts. With this last step complete, the new extension was strong enough to support the construction of its surrounding walls. Vertical timber studs were installed one after another, forming the complete structural framework for the new wall. In a remarkably short time, the once empty space beside the historic stone tower began transforming into a seamless architectural extension, ready for the next stage, with expansive glass windows and exterior cladding. With the primary frame of the new addition complete, the crew began installing the wall studs that would form the building's load-bearing walls. Each stud was positioned at precisely calculated intervals to ensure that roof loads would be transferred evenly down into the foundation. This marked the moment when a simple timber frame began evolving into a true architectural space. Beneath the roof, long horizontal bracing members were added to further strengthen the entire structure. These braces tied the roof, windows, and wall framing together into one unified system, helping the building resist wind loads, vibration, and seasonal movement caused by changing temperatures. Once the structural frame had been completed, OSB sheathing panels were installed across the exterior walls. Beyond serving as the first protective layer, the panels also functioned as large structural diaphragms, significantly increasing the frame's resistance to twisting under strong lateral wind forces. Covering the OSB, a weather-resistant membrane was carefully applied across the entire exterior surface. Although often overlooked, this layer is one of the most important components in modern timber construction. It allows moisture trapped inside the walls to escape while preventing rainwater from penetrating back into the structural framing. With the building envelope complete, the project entered one of its most visually dramatic stages. Large black aluminum-framed glass windows were carefully lifted into position. Unlike the small openings traditionally found in historic stone towers, these expansive windows maximize natural light and transform the interior into a bright, panoramic living space. Each window frame was carefully leveled before being permanently secured. Even a misalignment of only a few millimeters could place uneven stress on the glass and shorten the lifespan of the entire window system. For that reason, careful adjustment always took far longer than the actual installation. On the opposite side of the tower, a new, full-height opening was created through the original stone wall. This was one of the most delicate phases of the restoration, since any modification to the historic masonry had the potential to affect the building's structural integrity. To minimize risk, the crew reinforced the wall gradually throughout the process. At the new entrance, another large window assembly was lifted into place with a telehandler and slowly guided into its final position. Because of its considerable size and weight, every movement had to be carefully controlled to avoid damaging either the frame or the newly completed structure. Working together, two craftsmen carefully adjusted every corner of the window frame until the gap between the frame and the surrounding wall was perfectly uniform. This precise alignment is essential for allowing the waterproof sealant to perform effectively over the life of the building. Beside the main entrance, another full-height glass panel was installed to create a more balanced and contemporary facade. The combination of historic stone, natural timber, and expansive glass gave the tower a completely new identity while preserving the timeless character of the original architecture. With all of the windows securely installed, the crew began fitting the finishing trim and metal flashing around each opening. Though these details may seem minor, they play a crucial role in directing rainwater away from the joints and preventing moisture from entering the wall assembly. Exterior timber cladding was then installed across the newly built framework. Beyond its visual appeal, this cladding creates a ventilated cavity between the finished exterior and the weather barrier, helping reduce condensation and extending the lifespan of the timber structure. By this stage, the building had become almost completely weather-tight. After spending more than half a century exposed to rain, snow, and harsh weather, the historic stone tower finally gained a modern protective envelope while preserving the beauty and authenticity of its original architecture. Inside the tower, the crew shifted their attention to finishing the upper-level hardwood floor. Floor sanders ran continuously, removing even the slightest imperfections between adjacent boards and creating a perfectly smooth surface before the protective finish would be applied. Every scratch, saw, mark, and small imperfection was carefully removed. A truly high-quality finish never begins with stain or varnish. It always begins with a perfectly prepared surface. The first coat of clear varnish was applied evenly across the entire hardwood floor. Instantly, the natural color of the timber became richer. The grain stood out with remarkable clarity, and the surface gained long-term protection against moisture and everyday wear. Above, a perfectly circular opening was precisely cut into the ceiling to accommodate an electric pulley system. This unique feature would allow furniture and supplies to be lifted between floors without using the staircase, a practical solution that also takes full advantage of the tower's circular design. While the interior steadily moved toward completion, work outside shifted to the new patio. Curved formwork was carefully secured along the planned radius, creating the exact shape for the concrete slab that would soon be poured. The sweeping curve of the patio was precisely aligned using layout stakes and guide strings. This careful preparation ensured the outdoor space would flow naturally with the tower's distinctive circular architecture, rather than feeling like a separate addition. Reinforcing steel mesh was then laid across the prepared ground at carefully measured intervals. Once the concrete cured, this reinforcement would absorb tensile forces, minimize cracking, and significantly extend the lifespan of the patio. Back inside the tower, the crew continued refining the timber trim around the windows and doorways. These finishing details brought together the historic stone structure and the modern extension, creating one seamless architectural design. A concrete pump truck soon began placing fresh concrete across the patio. The slab was poured continuously to create one monolithic surface, eliminating cold joints that could weaken the structure over time. Immediately after placement, the concrete was screeded, floated, and finished with a variety of specialized tools to achieve the required flatness and surface texture. This stage influences not only the patio's appearance, but also its ability to drain rainwater effectively. Inside the building, large timber panels were positioned in preparation for one of the most intricate interior features of the entire project, the custom spiral staircase. Each wooden tread was carefully measured and installed along the previously calculated spiral path. Unlike a conventional staircase, every tread in a spiral staircase has a unique geometry, meaning virtually every component had to be individually crafted. As the treads gradually wrapped around the central column, the staircase slowly came to life. More than simply connecting the different levels, it became the architectural centerpiece of the entire interior. The top step was securely fastened to the central support column, completing the primary structural framework of the staircase. From that moment on, every floor of the tower was fully connected into one continuous living space. To prepare for the next phase of interior construction, precisely located anchor holes were drilled into the concrete floor. These would receive heavy-duty steel base plates designed to support the new timber framing. Black structural steel brackets were then secured with expansion anchors, creating high-strength connections between the concrete foundation and the timber structure above. With the entire anchoring system complete, the first timber posts were raised into position, according to the construction drawings. At this point, the project had become far more than the restoration of an old stone tower. It was steadily evolving into a modern home, where advanced engineering blends seamlessly with timeless, traditional craftsmanship. Additional timber members were installed between the vertical posts, gradually forming a series of smaller framed sections. As the horizontal bracing was completed, the entire structure became significantly more rigid, while also creating the framework for the interior features that would be installed in the final stages of construction. To ensure absolute precision, the crew used a laser level to establish the exact elevation before drilling anchor points into the historic stone wall. Heavy-duty black steel brackets were then securely fastened in place, creating a support system strong enough to carry the weight of the large timber shelves. The shelves were secured to the brackets using multiple fastening points to distribute the load evenly across the stone wall. This approach provides exceptional strength while maintaining the clean, floating appearance of the shelving system. In another area of the workshop, thick timber panels were cut and assembled into a large rectangular frame. This wasn't simply another piece of furniture. It was a central architectural feature that would help define the character of the upper living space. Additional internal bracing was installed inside the frame to increase its structural rigidity and prevent long-term deformation. With large timber assemblies like this, internal strength is just as important as the finished appearance. Perfectly round openings were carefully machined according to the construction drawings in preparation for recessed lighting. Installing the electrical system before the surface was finished keeps the construction process cleaner while minimizing the need for future modifications. A rich wood-toned finishing oil was then applied evenly across every surface. Instantly, the natural grain became deeper and more vibrant, giving each piece greater warmth and elegance while protecting the timber against moisture and long-term aging. Once fully assembled, the massive timber structure was connected to a lifting system and slowly raised into the air. This operation demanded flawless coordination between the crane operator and the installation crew, as the completed assembly weighed hundreds of kilograms. As the timber structure reached its final elevation, the crew carefully adjusted each corner until it aligned perfectly with the design layout. Thanks to the precision achieved during fabrication, The installation came together almost flawlessly, requiring virtually no modifications on site. Attention then returned to the staircase, where new timber posts were installed at carefully calculated intervals. These posts would serve as the foundation for the guardrail system, ensuring safe movement between every level of the tower. Horizontal rails were gradually connected between the vertical posts, transforming a collection of individual components into one unified structural system. Every completed joint added strength and stability to the staircase. Beside the historic stone wall, another custom timber framework was assembled for a built-in seating area. Rather than relying on freestanding furniture, the designers chose integrated cabinetry to maximize every inch of usable space within the tower's circular floor plan. The floor surface was then coated with a specialized finishing material that preserved the natural texture of the wood. Beyond enhancing its appearance, the finish also improves resistance to wear in areas that will experience heavy daily use. A custom curved steel handrail was carefully lifted into place along the spiral staircase. Fabricating a railing that perfectly matched the staircase's radius required an extraordinary level of precision, since even the slightest deviation would disrupt the continuous flow of the design. After careful alignment, the handrail was securely fastened to each timber post using heavy-duty mechanical connections. From that moment on, the staircase was not only structurally complete, but had also become one of the most striking architectural features of the entire home. Finally, the built-in seating area began taking shape as curved plywood panels were carefully installed over the framework. Every component had been individually crafted to follow the contour of the stone wall, creating the impression that the furniture had always been part of the original tower itself. Foam padding and upholstery fabric were stretched tightly over the frame before being secured with heavy-duty staples, transforming the rigid structure into a comfortable seating area. This marked the moment when the project began shifting from a construction site into a true living space designed for everyday life. Another curved seating frame was then installed along the stone wall, extending the built-in bench while making full use of the tower's distinctive circular layout. Every section was custom built to blend naturally with the historic architecture. Near the center of the tower, a carefully positioned opening was drilled through the stone wall in preparation for the heating system. In restoration projects like this, every drilled hole must be meticulously planned to avoid compromising the integrity of the original masonry. A large timber framework for the fireplace was then assembled with multiple structural supports hidden behind it. Beyond its decorative appearance, this framework also creates a protective barrier that separates the finished materials from the heat generated during everyday use. A deep black finish was carefully applied across the wall surrounding the fireplace. The bold contrast instantly created a striking focal point while highlighting the natural beauty of the surrounding stone and timber. One of the most impressive features of the entire project now began to take shape. Thick timber boards were carefully joined together to create a large circular tabletop. Its shape was far from accidental. It was specifically designed to reflect the tower's unique circular architecture. Once the tabletop had been fully assembled, its outer edge was carefully machined to create a perfectly smooth circle. With every pass of the cutting tool, the handcrafted piece moved one step closer to the quality of fine custom furniture. Beneath the central opening, a heavy-duty support frame was fabricated to carry the full weight of the table. This clever engineering solution provides exceptional stability while creating the illusion that the table is floating in the middle of the room. As the completed tabletop was lowered into position and securely fastened, the heart of the tower was finally complete. This would become the place where family and friends gather together, sharing meals, conversations, and the reward of months of dedicated craftsmanship. Few would believe that just a few months ago, this place was nothing more than a roofless stone tower, blanketed in moss and on the verge of collapse. Through technical expertise, perseverance, and thousands of hours of labor, the two brothers demonstrated that an old structure does not necessarily have to be demolished. Beneath the bar counter, the draft beer system and its plumbing were fully installed. All of the technical components were carefully concealed behind the finished surfaces, keeping the interior clean, organized, and fully functional. Chairs, the custom bar, a large television, and decorative furnishings were gradually placed in their final positions. The once cold and abandoned stone tower had been transformed into a warm and welcoming home, where historic architecture blends seamlessly with modern design. If you enjoyed watching this incredible restoration journey, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next remarkable restoration project.